Welcome to Stock Therapy with Penny Queen. Today I have CEO Ofer Vicus with Aduro Clean Tech. Welcome.
Hi, Penny. How are you? Long
Hi,
time.
I'm very good, and I'm very excited to get to talk to you because things have been very busy. In the last 6 weeks alone, the NGP transition to operating campaigns, you signed an offtake LOI with a major commodities trader. You signed an MOU with a global EPC firm to develop a commercial licensing package. You joined the Chemical Recycling Europe. You engaged Water Tower Research, and you did all this with about 40 million Canadian cash and no dilutive desperation. So,
Yeah,
from
I'm
your
gonna
seat,
blush now because and I look behind if this is us that have been doing it, but you are correct. We've done all of this in the last few months or weeks.
what does it feel like? Because I can tell you from my side, it looks like a lot of confidence.
I mean, it's as usual on our end. It's crazy busy. It's quite exciting time. First of all, I'd like to say, hello to our investors, the new one and the legacy one, the one that are, trusting us for some time here and supporting us. I mean, I have full appreciation for them listening to us and spending the time to see where we are. Just that we've been crazy busy all around, and to anyone that is have been read some of those press releases could see that we are basically operating in a methodological way to confirm that we have access, or we confirm our path to commercialization one by one by one by one. I think the maybe the first one that I can remember is the fact that we have sent our samples to um, an after cracker pilot to confirm that we have good results, and now we can build on those results towards our pilot. And then there is other press releases that suggest that we sign some offtake agreement because we need those guys to look at our samples and have some discussions about what does it mean and how much they value and yada 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 and where we are with that. And then we've done some work on the build on operate. So the size, the Chemlot application, the one that we told our investors that we're going to build a site, and that site is, we could expand if we would like it there. So we're doing that, and this is for us and for our investors. And the recent one was, of course, the signing with the EPC, which to the investors that I hope would read that would see that not just that we're working on the build on operate, we are now initiating the process for licensing. So this is crazy busy, all on many, many front, quite exciting. And yeah, this is where we are. Lots of achievement, but continue to working very, very hard. Focus on execution.
All right. Well, the EPC MOU is interesting. The company's not named, but can you give investors a sense of the caliber of the firm involved without naming them?
It's a global EPC. It's an EPC that has been working with us at least for the last several months, and I don't want to say more than what's disclosed on the in the publication because we are under NDA with them. And if you, this is where I think I'd like investors to pay attention. If we have, initiate the route to build and operate, area, which is the Camelot, and if we are building our first of a kind and it's been operating and running, and there's some information that is generated, that EPC is taking us to the other side of our value proposition, which is the licensing. And that EPC will be able to see how the pilot is functioning, and that will be EPC will be able to see how the first of a kind is functioning, and take that machine and make a machine that we can rent to others. And so that is the meaning of that. And so that EPC, is very much, I guess, working with us for some time now. It's a large one. I won't say where it is. I would leave the investors to guess the name of it. I'm sure they'll be surprised. of what it is. It's quite a powerful one. And I'd like to say that, when we're thinking about licensing, what's behind it is also the marketing power. And we're thinking also, if we're doing everything right with that EPC, then not just that we will build and operate our units, but we'll also are building a marketing power that will go on and sell those units globally. And that is what we've been doing with them. That is I felt a little bit that maybe you need to go back and remind investors all the things that we are doing in order to secure a position in the market. And that is a bold step that we've been taking recently. And that's a starting point. At some point of time, we will reveal the name of the EPC. There's no way around it, we're just working on it right now as we speak.
Okay, I was very excited to see that because, as you said, the build own operate is that's an excellent place to be in. But when
Yeah,
you
in
start,
Chemelot. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, great,
yeah,
the revenue, there's so much good about it.
yeah.
But the licensing side is where things get really sweet as far as the amount of scale and how quickly that can happen. So I saw that and it looked like a very confident move, and I was happy to see it. So
And we, in a way, a little bit, maybe you could say there's a little bit of validation, although we don't give the name, but in a way, I told investors many times that we want to de-risk the activity in the company. So build and operate is one channel that we've been working very hard. And now, just like we told investors in the past, we are going to work on the licensing package. That is our declaration, first step towards the licensing package. And yeah, it will come. We know it will take some time, but we are, heading with a very powerful, strong EPC that we are humble that they are selecting us and working with us on this.
all right. So I mean, I think that brings up a point for me that I put money on the line in my investments, and I know what investors want, and investors want to know everything.
Mm,
But when it comes to news releases, the big rule is the bigger company controls what goes in it. Like
yeah.
who's named, what happens. And that's, getting to see a news release and having those clues laid out is very helpful. You understand what's going on. You might not know exactly who it is in the beginning, but it's still valuable information. And there's a lot of things. I know we got a lot of technical questions in here. Because I opened it up and said,
Wonderful questions. Very, very strong questions. Yeah.
yeah, but another thing about that is they can't all be answered for shareholders, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's your IP. And I
Well,
think that's
I
worth at
would say,
least.
if you would want to come and work for Aduro and see it yourself, I mean, by all means, then, we invite you and we respect you as an investor. All of our employees are investors. And so I'm sure you'll find quite mind-boggling information out there. I've looked at those technical questions, and to be honest, I'd like to say that they're fantastic. Some of them are really, really smart, but they are involved in disclosure of, IP and direction and things that not sure we want to disclose it to our investors. We try to stay as transparent as we can, and as usual, always been as transparent as we can with information that we can generate and share with our investors. That EPC in particular, for example, is just a setting or a statement of where we're heading, and we're standing behind it. And we're working now on a project with that EPC to increase and investigate that route that we told investors. So, but there is a limitation of what we can disclose. We are under NDA. That's a very large organization. A lot of them are, have department of legal that sits behind it and just say no, 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 and that's it.
All right. Well, going from there,
Yeah,
the Offtake LOI, you signed an LOI with a major commodities trader for the
right.
first of a kind production parcel, or the
Yeah,
first first of a kind production parcel.
Yeah.
And that LOI includes committed offtake arrangements for the initial production parcel tied to the first of a kind industrial plant
Yes.
planned at Chemelot.
Yeah.
So, can you walk us through what that means in practical terms, having a buyer for your
Yes.
first
Yeah.
oil
So
basically in place?
yeah. So this is again another maybe notch on the belt. You don't want to build a unit without having some kind of a relationship with the organization that, look around and see and help you assess what's the value of your product. This particular LOI is exactly with that partner that can help us. And on one hand, help us, to have a customer that is buying and committed to this, but on the other hand, it helping them to test the material, help us optimize the market, understand where is our, let's say, oil is in the market, estimate what is its value so we can negotiate definitive agreements. All of those things, if we would just give him that information, that is the goal of what that partner is to do. And this is not the only one. We will negotiate with others. And we feel quite strongly about where we said that for many reasons, some of them because of the yield of the system and the fact that the system does not use hydrogen. There's a lot of benefits in it, but other maybe reasons is because of the coming regulation that I think it will do quite good for us when we'll speak about the regulation. And all of that in a dynamic market. So the relationship, again, this is another statement to the investors. We are working to make sure that while we are building machine that costs millions, we have a partner that will assess the performance of that feedstock and will help us identify its position in the market, and later we could negotiate for the better deal for it. So just de-risking, working a lot to implement and de-risk the activity in the company.
All right.
Another notch on the bell, I would say.
There have been a lot of notches lately.
Yeah.
So the first of a kind plant should be completed in the second half of 2027.
Yes.
Are you confident in that timing?
Yeah. So A, yes. B, if anything that holds us on this timeline is the permits. The permits in Europe are quite complicated. It's a little bit sometimes could be out of our hands, and for that reason, we gave enough timeline for us to play around it. Our goal is really to do it as early as we can. I don't see any reason why we will not be ready with a process, but I think we also would need the permits in order to operate it, and for that reason we gave that deadline. Although internally, all of us are working day and night to reduce that timeline and to make sure that we are sooner than later with a process that is up and running.
Perfect. All right, let's talk about the Chemelot site.
Yeah.
Here's some rapid fire questions. Are you
Okay.
purchasing or leasing?
Oh, we're listening. Wow,
Okay.
this is interesting. Interesting. Nobody owns land. There's only one company that owns whole Camelot. Nobody owns. Everyone is leasing.
Will it be indoor or outdoor?
That's another great question. It will be a combination. Some of the equipment will be indoor, some equipment will be outdoor. At some point of time, we'll actually share information about it.
Okay. Is there existing infrastructure?
So this is a bit of a brown field. We actually took some investigation during our site. During our, last year, we actually investigated several territories. Among some of them were in Europe, some of them in Canada, some of them some of them had existing site. We feel Camelot is the best selection. We, of course, have history with Brightland and Chemelot, but Chemelot infrastructure, Chemelot organization, Chemelot, manpower, Chemelot, services, permits, everything is there waiting, and we could basically build a process. If you remember the build on operate, we really have interest to expand. And it gives us an opportunity to expand and enjoy those benefits of services if we wish to really, really large size. And Penny, I need to say, I think it's worthy to say that based on everything that is happening right now in 2030, there is a really significant regulation that is coming in and in Europe specifically. And so we want to be ready towards that regulation. But specifically to Chemelot, we just feel it's the most appropriate place for us right now to grow on a build own operate.
Okay. So Total Energies has been in a technical evaluation program for over 2 years. Where does that stand today? And what does the path to a signed licensing agreement look like?
Yeah, so it's premature to speak about licensing agreement. Total, just like Shell, like every other Fortune 500, they've been testing this technology. They've been looking and monitoring, and we do have collaboration. Our engagement is going on with Total. We're happy with it. What we're doing right now is, focusing on building our process. I'm sure, Total is monitoring and looking at that as well.
Fair enough. So I know investors are hungry for data from the NGP, and I know that there's a process for releasing that data formally. But I want to ask you today is about the character of what you're seeing. Are you surprised by anything? Are you more confident than you were 6 months ago?
No, not at all. No surprise. We have basically when we open the reactor, Penny, we do see conversion in a really nice level. We, see everything that is expected to see. This is a pilot unit. It's over spec, and it's meant to allow us to do all kind of experimental so we could understand and improve our first of a kind. There is a road to do that, of course, and at some point of time, we will share information. At this point of time, we're very much focusing on optimization of that unit. And later, I'm sure we'll bring some information about it. But as far as we see, yeah, we like what we see so far.
All right. So the NGP is described as having an industrial configuration replicating the first of a kind conditions. Can
Yeah.
you explain what that means to someone who's never seen the inside of a chemical plant?
Yeah, well, I try. It's a petrochemical process, right? It's not as simple just an engine on my Toyota and that it will turn on and will be, everything will be fine. On the other hand, it has all the basic components and it's actually over spec. To be honest, it's actually quite over spec than what the first of a kind will be. If the NGP, let's say, is over spec, the first of a kind will be much simpler machine to work with. It gives us a lot of flexibility to run the process in many directions so that we could optimize. And we've learned, Penny, from the last 3 or 4 weeks of operating the unit so much that we are already delivering information towards optimization of the first of a kind. But those goes together, and I think I mentioned that the plant was not, on one hand, so expensive. On the other hand, was in our capability to work and operate in a way that we could maybe stretch the limitation, maybe do some work around optimization. This is what we're busy right now on this. So we expect that information. It's already flowing into the design of the first of a kind, and yeah, to be continued.
All right. Well, what does Aduro specifically need to prove at pilot before you consider the design package for the first of a kind locked in?
Yeah, it's look, we're already delivering information from the pilot towards the first of a kind. Just as a general statement, it's not about the last round when everything is optimized. It's about the journey towards that last round, whether do we need to rethink about the location of the valves, of the pipelines, of the, everything around that, the reactors, the way we're organizing them, things of such. And so I feel, it took us quite a long time to optimize the R2. You may not remember, but when we had the R2, yes, we got conversion. It took us some time to go, and so this is the same. It's a journey that you work through your way in order to reach a place where you would run this machine and you would know exactly what to do with it. And that in return translate to a better design. But it's not the only goal. There is, other goals that are related to that. is really becoming intimate with the process to such level that we could transfer data, learning information from it into the design. And this is what we're doing as we speak right now. So I feel confident about it. There's no surprises around it. It's not as easy, just not turning the engine and we just off we go. But on the other hand, everything that we see is a little bit expected. And yes, we do see great conversion on it. We will publish at some point of time some data around it.
Okay, perfect. I'll be waiting. Um, Now I want to switch gears to bitumen. So
Yeah,
investors keep asking about the HBU, the bitumen vertical.
right.
It's listed as $50 billion total addressable market, but it gets far
Yes.
less airtime than plastics. Can you give
Yeah.
us a genuine update on where HBU stands and why it matters?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's fair to say to investors that, with the signs of the time, the price of oil and things like that, bitumen side of things, of course, is coming to mind. When we consider the bitumen is not in the realm of 2 months, but in the realm of 20 years. And it's a huge market for us to approach. Of course, we took a lot of aggressive steps towards the plastic application. But in the background, we are working very hard on the bitumen application. I do expect to have some announcement during this year, but we had to focus on some things and we had to, give some things a little bit to investigate in the background. And I'm sure if the investors will stay with us, there'll be some announcement during the year about the heavy oil application that we are, having.
Well, I, for one, look forward to that because this is a genuine differentiation from every other chemical recycling company in the space. So,
So Benya, that is actually quite a good point because I think, if I would go back, I would argue that we are a platform technology. So it's not specifically to the chemical recycling. The tech as is, every application that we have is a company making by itself. It's just huge. And you could get lost with all of this research but we told investors very clearly that we are after revenue and we want to bring the first machine very closely to revenue. And we're doing that step by step as, if we follow the press releases. But this is really a platform technology. And for that reason, there is background works on the bitumen. And when we'll be, there'll be a time where we'll come out with it, basically. But there is more into it. It's not just bitumen. There is other applications that we're not even talking about that are in the background, and each one of them, from what we see so far, is quite promising, if not most of them.
yeah, I think it's really difficult to have a technology that has application in so many different realms. I mean,
Yes.
it's a new type of chemistry, and
Yes.
I mean, I
And
may
and
be oversimplifying it there, but it's a new type of chemistry with so many different applications. But
yeah.
for shareholders, you have to chase one, and you can be working on the side with the others. Is how I've been thinking of it. But
So two things on that. First, I feel we doing exactly what we told shareholders in the sense of, first of all, as a background, this is based on a phenomena that, we discovered, right? We identified and we build the power behind it. Is generally probably 10 patents already around this thing. We develop it into different applications, and each application represent, technology to some extent. And so that is the basic of that. It is very different to anything out there, and it was, not investigated by anyone else. So all of that is said and done. This is what we told investors at the beginning. But now we also said to investors that we are, focusing on the application that we feel we're quite aggressively, and we made a strong headway, maybe with the plastic application. But in the background, we're absolutely working on the bitumen. And that is something that we said to investors in the sense that the goal was to create enough, activity that works to de-risk the company. And, that comes along with the statement that I mentioned. But I understand that the investors, are waiting to see some information, and it's yet to be seen. But, just we'll get there.
All right. Well, then two more quick questions on HBU.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
is the pilot plant being used for bitumen testing or exclusively plastics at this point?
So it's a completely different technology. So if we would, and when we would to build a pilot plant for bitumen, it would be a very different pilot plant when the plastic. It's solely to the plastic application. And the first of a kind will only operate on plastic application.
What does the commercial pathway look like? Is it a separate licensing track?
So it's very much similar, I think, to what we're doing now. We either do some licensing around it, or we either do some build on, likely licensing more than build on. It's a huge, huge market. We do need to sell it to some partners. As you remember, in the heavy oil application, they only exist about, maybe 80 or 90 years. They heard everything and anything. When we will be ready, we'll publish some information, and that information, will probably dictate how the business model will evolve.
I think it's probably worth pointing out to investors that the major players in bitumen, a lot of them are major players in plastics too, which is, I think
Yeah.
it's interesting. I mean, it makes sense based on the chemistry, but it's a lot of the same folks. So I
It,
find
it,
that
it, it
promising.
it does, yeah, yeah. So I can confirm and assess that it does. But if you remember, part of the reason that we have Aduro as is, as a chemical platform, is because sometimes there was such a separation between the organization that have done plastic to the organization that have done bitumen to the organization. That's how we build our power. And so you're speaking to different voices around this, and this is Fortune 500 organization. They're not simple organization. You just don't not knock on the door and say something, and they just hug you. But yeah, that's confirm to what you said.
All right. So I'm going to shift to technology
Okay.
differentiation. So you're the only company in the chemolysis column of the competitive landscape.
Right.
Everybody else is doing pyrolysis or thermolysis.
Yeah.
Why hasn't anyone else gone this route?
Well, it's based, I mean, we are the only one that develop it to a commercial level, basically. And going back to the origin of it, I'll remind to our investors that it is based on a phenomenon we discovered, and we later developed, lessons learned from the bitumen to the renewable to the plastic application. And so it wasn't one application that allows develop and the understanding of where we are. It was the combination of all of them, and I'll give you an example. When we worked with the bitumen, we recognized that the metals in the bitumen, act as a catalyst, for example. But then, absent, let's say, of some hydrogen, sometimes it was kind of a polymerized and becomes a hockey puck. But then when we did the same approach on renewable oil, we realized that the oil is actually quite stable. And so we investigated what's the difference, for example, and we realized that, we're consuming some of the glycerol. Guess what we did? We just inject some glycerol to the bitumen, and voila, we got a very, very stable. So we realized that there is some kind of a in situ work that is happening and stabilize the process while consuming the glycerol. Saying all that, you can see why organizations somehow missed that phenomena. They were working basically in different channels. And during that time, we took a lengthy strategy of protecting ourselves in patents. And so we basically, at this point of time, feel, yeah, we're not just the first, but we have enough sufficient protection around that it will be much better to organization to speak to us than to try and do something in it.
So engineers with pyrolysis backgrounds apply the same skepticism to
Mhm.
hydrochemolytics that they would to thermal cracking. What's your
Right.
clearest answer to someone who says that additives and mixed plastics fundamentally can't be handled at commercial scale?
Oh man. I guess the answer relies basically in the question, engineers with pyrolysis background. If they rely, and I don't want to sound cocky here, but if they judging us solely on their experience of pyrolysis. I mean, you Google today and you can understand what pyrolysis is doing. The fact that we are not doing pyrolysis, quite meaningful fact that's worthy of, reading what is it we're doing. And the fact that they are relying on just on that, I would say, of course, they would show skepticism. We have tested and confirmed the chemistries hundreds of times. It is now in the commercial phase. It does has its challenges, but if you've been kind of a judge the process based on your background in pyrolysis and you haven't kind of took the time to learn what's the HCT represent and do, then I think there is a problem there. So it is anything but pyrolysis to that end.
Perfect. All right. Shell's GameChanger program assessed constructability and scale-up soundness, not just lab chemistry. What specifically did Shell's engineers examine?
Yeah, so it's another, Fortune 500 with all kind of NDAs around it. But fair to say, Shell Game Changers were looking for fast fail concept, and Shell program is over a year. Ours took 3 years. I mean, the length of the information we cannot disclose. We're still under NDA. Shell is not a company that you want to mess around with. We need to respect the NDA. However, I think fair to say that they were looking first and foremost to find the uniqueness, that this is not a fast fail. We clearly passed that. We're now in the stage where beyond the game changer, we are heading towards, the first of a kind design and build up. And the pilot that is operating, we're still in relationship with Shell. I'm sure they're monitoring. At some point of time, once we'll be ready, we'll come back and we'll discuss it. But that's kind of all I can say on the game changer at this point of time.
Fair enough. All right. Supercritical water. So,
Oh, okay.
your operating range is up to about 390 degrees Celsius, which approaches the supercritical threshold for water.
Yeah.
Is there any scenario at commercial scale where you need to consistently operate in that upper bound? And how does that affect additive management?
Yeah, well, first, it's just many technical questions that I love, and kudos to the people that are, putting time to investigate what is that we're doing. Supercritical water is a function of temperature and pressure. We will never, and we are never working in the range of supercritical water, full stop. So if it's, within the temperature, it's not in the pressure. If it's in the pressure, it's not in the temperature. It doesn't matter. We will never, ever, ever work in supercritical water. We call supercritical water basically water pyrolysis, and we talked about it in length many, many times. So it's just not going to happen.
So, in answer, no, we're not.
No, we're not.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
Short answer, no, we're not.
All right. So, Eric Appelman was working at Brightland's Chemlot campus, the same campus where your first of a kind plant is being built. How deliberate was that hire, and what does it unlock for you?
I wholeheartedly, intentionally wanted to hire Eric, and so we're lucky to have him. But it's the fact that we landed on Chemlot. That was not the plan. We investigated maybe 4 or 5 sites before we landed on Chemlot. The fact that he's known Chemlot is definitely a bonus. I cannot say good things about the value that Eric brings to the company. Is doing basically the technical marketing. It's awesome. I'll remind our investors that Eric Eric team was the business development team, discovered us And, he was monitoring our activity for almost 3 years before we got him converted and working with us. So this is way, way years behind. Nothing of it was planning. We're very lucky to have him. Very, very proud to work with him.
All right. So I would like to move on to Anil Jhawar. He's been with you
Okay.
since day one, first
Yeah.
employee, co-inventor. What is it like building a company with your chief scientist from the beginning?
Yeah, it's very satisfying. I can't say enough for his contribution. Anil was the first paid employee. It took us about 5 or 6 years before we got paid. Before Anil was really, really the first that got paid. I think the connection with Anil was quite quick between myself, Mark, the founder of the company, the co-founder of the company, and Anil, which at the time was a young scientist. And I think what draws the relationship really just, I can't say enough about his personality. It's just giving you the comfort level that whatever you want, he will help you do that. But on the other hand, the intellectual challenges that we were facing, that took him, from where he is to where he is today. And of course, he was doing it together with the guided and assistance of our co-founder Mark. So there's a true pawn maybe items or activity that works here. On one hand, I think Anil was basically very drawn intellectually to whatever we've been doing. On the other hand, there was a great chemistry between us. His personality is just superior. I call him Superman every time I see him, and that led us to work all of these years together. Just great feeling to see it up and coming. On top of everything else, you see now that the company, is being built up, and Anil is part of it. And Anil, literally on any focal point that we need, we send him, and he's the leading guide when we need strong help. So just, super, super good.
All right. What is the single most important thing you want investors to understand about where the company stands today that you feel is most underappreciated by the market?
Wow. Underappreciated by the market. Look, first, again, I'd like to thank the audience and the investors to listen to this, to our conversation. We promise investors from the first day that we are going to go through a path of commercialization, and we're going to achieve certain milestones, and we'll do those milestones, step by step. I feel maybe that the last, let's say, 3 or 4 months since November, I say, in December, um, nobody made the connection of those milestones, those notch on the bills, from the pilot, the NAFTA Cracker pilot, through our work, to search and investigate of a site, then to land on the site, to start planning the design of the unit, to commercialize, to work on the, let's say, on the design of the first of a kind, to commission the pilot. We literally taking step by step to make sure that our commercialization path is progressing. And to me, it feels a little bit like no, not a lot is being talked about, making the dots, making the connection towards how is it important. And so, if anything, I'd like our investors to kind of a look back at the things that we are working on, the project that we're working on. We feel very strong about 2026. It's a very, very strong year for us. It's bigger than 2025 on our hand. We're working on the different projects. Some of them we can talk about, some of them we can't talk about, as usual with those things. And so far, they are so exciting on our hand. So we feel there is a lot of upside to gain here while we're doing it, on many fronts. And we're just working to achieve that. And so at some point of time, and I'm offering to you, Penny, independent to this conversation, I know there's a lot of discussions on the technicality, on the technical And maybe we will do, I'll invite Anil and I'll invite our head of research, Biren, to sit with you and do some presentations about the chemistry, about the technology, about how, it's operated, just on a whatever we can say publicly, to reinforce how unique it is, to help investors to see how unique it is. So we have a fantastic technology that we feel very strong about it. It's strongly protected. And maybe C instead of B is that we're working, through a very methodological way to make sure that we are commercializing it, and we are closer than ever. This is just around the corner now from our perspective, to have a unit that could actually generate revenue. So it's quite exciting, super, super exciting.
I am very excited, and I would love to do a more technical dive to help people understand. And of course, I know there were a lot of questions that were related a lot more to your intellectual property that can't be answered. They really can't. I read a lot of those questions, and I really wanted the answers myself. But also, I was very impressed with
Come work for Aduro. Then we'll just we'll open the kimono, but then you can't tell it to the others. That's that.
Then I can't support my favorite stock by writing about it.
I have to say that I'm not. Those questions that have been asked have not got us by surprise. The investors that has not received information, answers to those questions, needs to know that I'm not surprised by any of them. None of them. Of the correct. These very, very good questions. They, should we need to answer them, they would force us to disclose all kind of things that I think not appropriate. You as an investor, you would not want us to disclose those things. There is a lot of eyes as we speak that are on the company, on the technology. Why would we help anyone in the market while we're doing what we're doing? I mean, again, this is something that we discovered in 2011. This is something that was, had nothing like it in the world. Why would we compromise that by answering those and help, anyone around us? But yes, I maybe in order to give some comfort level, maybe we'll bring Anil and Biren to some discussions with that, and they'll prepare some presentations, and maybe people could ask questions on that, and that would be great.
Perfect. Well, I will make myself ever available. So
okay.
Thank you very much for taking the time tonight and going through all these questions with me.
Yeah, super good. Thank you, Penny.